Hey guys, welcome back to Puffalado, and welcome back to Café Enchanté. We're in Kion, we're walking around and Eel just suddenly stopped and someone just played one note on an organ, so let's get right into it. The moment we hear it, the eel filled with nothing until now, slowly raises his head. After his eyes with no light in them catch sight of us, he begins to speak.
周囲の生命体の解析を開始。管理個体のいずれの生態コードにも該当せず、天使にあらず、打天使にもあらず、異世界からの侵入者と判断。よって、
Oh God.
これより天界カエレムの安寧を脅かす外敵を断罪します。
Oh God. A sound of wind. By the time I realized what it meant, light was filling my field of vision. My body doesn't hurt.
Kiga!
No, I'm fine. Mazir is standing in front as though shielding me, and the magic circle that he seems to be using as a shield has cracked. What about the others?
あの程度でどうにかなるかよ。けどあいつ。ああ、そうだ。このような事態を想定しておかぬ方がおかしかったのだ。
だよね。兵器だって言うなら侵入者の排除も任されてて当然か。
Everyone looks into the sky. Flying high in the air is the angel of judgment with pure white wings. His chilling eyes, enough to make me shiver, look down upon us as foreign enemies.
来るぞ!
The moment Ignis shouts,
勝者。
it was literally a rain of light. The countless arrows of light falling from the sky are no divine blessing, but a calamity as they pour down onto us.
ああ、いきなり大量すぎんだろ!
Ignis sprints to dodge at high speed, and Canis uses his sword to barely repel the arrows.
術の出が早い。一切の容赦もなしってわけか。絶対に俺から離れないで。
Yeah. Mazir shouts while he doesn't look back, and each time his magic circles break, he creates a new one to hold the defense. However, there's a limit to this. Gradually, Eel starts to gain dominance. At the same time as deploying the large magic circle, Mazir turns to look at me once. Yeah, I don't think Eel wants to hurt any of us either. I have a feeling what he wanted to say, and upon seeing me give a nod of determination, Mazir immediately calls to Ignis and Canis.
二人とも応戦するよ。当然だけどやりすぎ厳禁。
仕方ねえな。どこまでも手がかかるやつだぜ。前は任せろ!
With the Mazir's order as a signal, the two leap high up. They close in on Eel from front and back.
この際だ。ぶん殴って目覚ますか試してやろうじゃねえか。ああ、食いしばれ、いる!
Ignis!
許せ!
However,
障壁展開。
in a single moment, walls of light suddenly appear and stops their two attacks. Unable to fly as the two of them fall, Eel sends out new arrows.
阻め!
The magic circles created by Mazir shield the two as they fall, but are unable to endure more and shatter. The two frontliners manage to land, and Mazir supports them from the rear. But there's no time for rest.
イグニス・カリブンクルスの最高移動速度を予測。同時並行にてカヌス・エスパーダの耐久力を測定。完了。射出速度のアップ、加え防御貫通の加護を付与します。
Oh God. They couldn't totally stop it this time. The arrows of light managed to cut into the bodies of Ignis and Canis.
イグニス、立て直すぞ!
Connus endures the pain, and while he once more starts cutting down arrows, for both defense and sight obscuring, Ignis starts raising a tall wall of flame. Aren't you two injured?
バカ言うんじゃねえ。こんなん傷のうちにも入らねえよ。つうか、なんだ今の。いきなり矢の威力が変わったぞ。まさか、こちらの能力に合わせて効果を変えているのか。
As though to affirm Connus's guess.
落ちよ。
Oh my god! Several giant pillars of light came down from the heavens, piercing the wall of flame.
だから早すぎるって。
Seeming to think their defenses wouldn't hold, Mazir hurriedly thrusts his hand out and... Shattered fragments of magic circles gathered. They become lightning and fly at the pillars of light. With an immense roar and shake, the powers offset each other. Against wide areas of light arrows, explosions. Against giant pillars of light, purple lightning. Chains of light tangle with chains of darkness. Giant halos appear and surround us, but are pierced by dark spheres. Every form of magic that Eel unleashes is countered by a different magic attack. An angel and a demon king, arch enemies, as known in the human world, are having a battle just like legends would tell of. Darkness and light crash against each other in the sky countless times and shake the world itself. I'm doing my utmost to stay my trembling legs and remain standing, to not break Mazir's focus. At the same time, in a place a little ways away, the two frontliners.
あれがイルの本当の実力なのか。あいつはなんだかんだでサポート役が多かったからな。
As though to further show his true power. Eel soars even higher. He fixes his gaze down on Mazir, who's been managing to offset his attacks.
簡易攻撃は全て無効化、相殺されると判断。最大脅威、ミシェル・アレックスへ最も有効とされる術式を検索。ヒット、大規模破壊術式第2位、ケルビムの使用認可及び構築に必要な霊力の供給を申請。申請を通過、収束開始。
From even higher in the sky, silver-colored light rains down onto Eel and it's absorbed into his body. Around him, several enormous circles of light appear and begin to stack upon each other. Even I, a total amateur with no knowledge of this, can instinctively tell how dangerous that light is. Instinctively. There we go. Mazir crosses his arms and a dome-shaped barrier covers us.
ミシェル、防ぎきれんのかよ。
正直微妙。かといって逃げ切れる術じゃない。だから、というか今思い出したんだけど、打点したイルはあれでも弱ってたんだよね。
そうか。ここカエルムはイルの故郷。つまり従前の力を得られる。そして本来の姿に戻っている。今
めちゃくちゃやばいってこと。
Well, we're gonna die. A drop of cold sweat drips down his face from the bomb blast of that. Glaringly bright light starts to illuminate the area.
照準、完全固定。我が歌をもってここに断罪の決行を。
Eel said. Eel shouted so desperately that he didn't want to kill anymore. Yet at this rate, he even threatens his cherished friends. Before I could shout this out,
おっと、させるかよ。
oh!
さあ、こいつでしばらくおとなしくしとけよ。断罪の天使様。
Who the fuck? A man with jet black wings suddenly appears and throws ash-colored light towards Eel's back. The moment it hits him, for some reason, Eel's movement stops completely. Using this opportunity, the mysterious man descends to us. Who are you?
すまねえな、ジョーちゃん。自己紹介は後回しだ。全員俺の周囲に集まれ。もうケルビムの発動は止められねえ。 この場所から離脱する。
疑っても他に策はなし。彼に従うしかないか。
As told, we all moved near the man who suddenly appeared.
転送は苦手だが、まあやる気はねえな。全員下噛むんじゃねえぞ。
The moment it feels like my feet float off the ground, my field of vision goes white. What? Within the space of less than a second, I've moved to a road I've never seen. There's no doubt it's still Kyam, but the scenery is much different than before.
これは空間転移。
おうよ、限界距離こそあるが同じ世界内でなら専用のロザリオ、ポインターを置いて術式で囲んどきゃいつでも戻ってこれるって仕組みだな。
Oh, interesting.
襲撃の時、打天使たちが店内に現れたのはソリテスの野郎が事前にこれを仕掛けてたせいか。何の話かは知らねえが、しかしお前ら運が良かったな。俺が近くにいなきゃ今頃塵になってたんじゃねえか。
The man gives us a big, cheerful smile. Perhaps because that cheer reduced his vigilance, Kana speaks up to learn his identity.
助立ち、感謝する。だがお前は何者かって？そりゃお互い様だと思うが、まあでも感謝する相手としては間違いはねえはずだぜ。
Okay. Huh? As he says this, he points with his finger. Beyond the clouds, barely in sight, is an enormous space floating in the sky. Maybe it's an effect of the magic. Eel's inorganic singing voice sounds loudly, even to hear. Likely the area where we were until a moment ago. We witness an enormous bombardment of light fall from the heavens and annihilate it without any trace. That's the second strongest? Good lord.
今回はまた派手にやりやがった。あれは近くを巡回してた他の天使も巻き添え食らってんな。
No way. Eel isn't a weapon, but that naive thought is meaningless with the sight before my eyes. Even though I didn't want to, I see the meaning and nature behind Eel's creation. All the other regulars can't swallow it either. Whether knowingly or unknowingly.
おっと、のんきに眺めてる場合じゃねえか。ジャミングで気配を消さねえと。
The man claps his hands again, and an ash-colored light glows around the area as though covering us. For a while after that, we gaze in the direction of the bombardment of light.
忌まわしいと表現すべきか。あの時と同じく、またしてもジャミングにて接続が遮断されたようだな。
Okay.
まあよい。よく戻った。断罪の使徒よ。お前の帰還を神もお喜びになるだろう。戻るぞ。神はお前との対面とあの計画への参加を求められている。
Eel, who had stopped in the sky, is led along by Solidus, and they vanish into the distance. Eel!
おいおい、ありゃ神託の使徒じゃねえか。またやべえのが出てきたな。神託の使徒？
That reminds me, Solidus called himself that before.
ああ、神直属の強力な天使。使徒たちの中でも神託の使徒は断罪の天使に次ぐ2番目に強力な天使でな。神の右腕、いわば軍師ってとこか。
The man who saved us hits his fists together, as though saying that's enough.
今は身を隠すのが先だぜ。使徒相手ほどじゃねえが、聖天使どもに見つかっても面倒だ。
The man stomps his foot on the floor and While there is nothing, the floor cracks open, and a staircase leading underground appears.
俺たちの隠れ家に招待してやるよ。行こうぜ。
With his words, we all look at each other.
ここは耐えよう。イルを助けるにしても作戦を練らないとね。
ああ、闇雲に戦うだけでは解決しないだろう。ことね、お前だって俺たちの血の洗い合いなんざ見たくねえだろ。
Yeah. I hold back my urge to go chasing after eel right now and nod. Just then.
にしても反射的に助立ちしちまったが、改めてお前ら何者だ？天使じゃねえのは確かだが、あの断罪の天使相手にまともにやり合うなんざただもんじゃねえだろ。
Oh, what should I do? I don't know his position, so how should I answer?
まあいいや。少なくとも敵の敵ってことは俺らに害はねえわけだし。
Saying this, without hesitation, he starts walking down the stairs underground.
ああ、それとここはそこそこ高い区画だからな。うっかり落ちねえよう気をつけろよ。
Prompted by him, I turn around to look, and below the stairs I see... Oh, good God. In the center stands an enormous tower piercing the heavens, among various structures floating in the air, and likely angels flying around past them here and there. It's beautiful. However, at the same time, this divine and grand floating world feels cold. To be sure, there's no mistake that it's appropriate to call this the heavenly world. We're guided to a dimly lit space. It's much like a laboratory that would appear in a science fiction movie.
ようやく一息つけるな。おい、戻ったぜ、お前ら。
The man raises his voice, and multiple people... No.
お帰りなさい。今回も無事で何よりです。新しい打天使は保護できましたか？
Fallen angels come rushing over happily. After chatting with them a bit, the man turns back around to us.
俺の仲間が騒がしくて悪いな。それにまずこっちの自己紹介がまだだった。俺はエピロギ。感情を得たことで断罪される運命の打天使たちを引きかくまってる。
I'm surprised he hasn't been fucking murdered by Eel yet.
わかりやすく言えば打天使の長ってやつだな。
Epilogi bows respectfully. When we say we're from another world and give a light explanation, he obviously makes a surprised face.
まさか異世界からの客とはよ。確かにホールの存在は知ってたが、しかしお前らも災難だな。よりにもよってこんな世界に落ちちまうなんて。
Huh? Wait, is Epilogi misunderstanding that we fell into a wormhole and ended up here? I think about correcting him, and I'm about to speak up when...
いやー、本当におかげで次から次へと混乱しっぱなしだよ。
There, Monsieur interrupts and puts on an overly clear smile.
そりゃ突然の異世界なんざ苦労しかねえだろうな。いいぜ、これも何かの縁だ。俺が知ってる範囲でよければこの世界のことを教えてやるよ。あ、図があった方が分かりやすいよな。ちょっと待ってくれよ。ちょうどうってつけなもんがあるんだ。
Epilogi says this, then heads nearby and starts operating some kind of device. Hey, Monsieur, why did you lie like that?
今はイルと天使について少しでも情報が欲しいからね。手段は選んでられないよ。
ま、正直に事情を打ち明けたとこで連中の協力を得るのは難しいだろう。エピロギの口ぶりからしてイルは快く思われていないようだ。
I see. This hurts my conscience, but as they say, you can't solve a problem without sacrifices.
これでよしと。
Drawn by Epilogi's voice, I look over at him once again, and on top of the device he was operating, scenery of Kaum from that high place earlier is projected.
この機械はだいぶ古いもんなんだが、カエルムについての知識を一通り詰め込まれてる優れもんでな。どこのドイツが作ったもんかは知らねえが、今のお前たちにとっちゃ便利な代物だろ。知りたいことを言ってくれ。俺がこいつを操作してやるよ。
Okay, thank you very much. What to ask? Well, let's start off with Kaum. I assume that we're going to be able to ask about both, right? Then, could you tell us more about the heavenly world Kaum itself?
いいよ、カエルムそのものについてね。
Heavenly world Kaum, a solemn floating world where divinity and silence fused and developed. A being existing in the heavens controls the world. The peace determined by God, in other words, perpetuity as absolute, and the world is governed by the law. Unlike other observed worlds, no period of time called night ever arrives, and the world is basked in eternal light. However, no life forms other than angels and fallen angels have ever been observed. A world that dislikes change.
ああ、だから実際外からの客であるお前らを断罪の天使は襲撃したろ。足を踏み入れた時点でこの世界に変化をもたらす要因、罪人は排除の対象になるんだ。
I should also ask for details on other things. Yep. Great, we can do both. Angels. About the beings called angels, or more like... could you tell us about that race?
天使について。ああ、ちょいと待ってくれよ。
Maybe wondering how to explain it, Epilogi fiddles with the device, switching from one hologram to another. Then... much like what we passed earlier, what seems to be outside the laboratory comes into view. Wee wee, this is your Puffalata trigger warning. So up ahead, there's pretty much like we witness a suicide, which is not great. It comes like out of nowhere too. I don't even know why they added it. But if you're not comfortable with that, please skip to the time shown on the screen. And for those of you who are ready to just see something random, it's not that graphic, but still not great. Let's continue. There are seen lone angels spaced out, standing around doing nothing in particular.
悪い、間違えて外に仕掛けた防犯映像を映しちまった。今切り替える。
Oh. What? By the time I wondered what that sound was, the angel in the footage gouges his arm into his own chest, collapses on the spot, then turns to particles of light and vanishes. We're stunned silent, and with an apologetic face, Epilogi turns off the footage.
悪かったな。いきなりこんなもんを見せるつもりはなかったんだが。
Yeah, what the fuck? It's fine. But, what just happened?
ちょうどいいっていう言い方はひでえかもしれねえが、今の例に出した方がわかりやすいな。
With mixed feelings, Epilogi brings the next footage up.
これは
It looks like kind of like stained glass. What could it be?
こいつは霊力炉ってもんだよ。そこには俺ら天使の肉体やカエルム全体を支えるエネルギー、霊力がしこたま詰まってんだ。
Which means this refers to living terminals created by God's rule of the heavenly world, extracting spirit energy from the spirit furnace. Angels have their consciousness connected to God from the moment of creation, restricting thought and action, asserting control, and eliminating their emotions. Commands from God are sent into the brain, and this oracle manifests into action. However, only one person is excluded. the Apostle of Judgment, who cannot act without any commands from God or the Apostle of the Oracle. Other angels are provided with autonomy functions required for thought and action to execute the Oracle. This is getting too complicated.
つまりは天使どもは意識っつうか知識が神につながっててよ。各個体がどこにいようが考えてることや見てるもんは奴にも共有されてんだ。
That means it's like a server in terminals, so with that connection, God can control their minds, right? By the way, what about you?
俺たちは打点、つまり感情を取得した時点でその辺の支配からは解放されてんだ。そんでこっからがさっきお前らに見せちまった光景の説明だ。天使の肉体は時間とともに劣化しちまうもんでな。だからその前に使徒と呼ばれる貴重な個体を除いて天使は一定の周期で自害し身を構築する霊力を炉に変換する義務を持ってんだ。
Jesus.
要するに命を再利用してやるから体が新鮮なうちにとっとと死ねっつ珍妙なルールがあるってことか。
ああ、そういうことになる。返された霊力は新たな天使の生産や砲術用のエネルギーに使われるんだ。
胸くそ悪い。
After that, Eel, about the Angel of Judgment and God. After explanations and checking on our current grasp of the information and making sure there were no mistakes, with a breath of relief, Epilagi removes his hand from the device. And we're gonna stop here. Oh my goodness, this is craziness. Wow, there's a lot of information to go through. That means that it's kind of fucked. Like, imagine if God was like, I need all of you, my children, to kill yourselves in order to feed the sustenance for our later generations. So it's like, ooh, or in order to be the substance, but well, next episode, I'm like horrified. Next episode, we will, I guess, learn more about Eel, maybe? About his role here.